prevalent forms of human trafficking that we deal with in London is sex trafficking. Many of the trafficked persons, including minors under the age of 18, are sexually exploited when forced into prostitution or forced to perform sexual acts, including but not limited to exotic dancing, production of pornography. Sex trafficking victims are often coerced or tricked into forced prostitution. Many trafficked persons can be lured and groomed by persons posing as boyfriends or girlfriends and forced to hand over most or all of the money associated with these acts. Often they are victims of violence as a result of being trafficked. Many of the girls or women are taken from city to city and different hotels. Sometimes they don't even know which hotel they're in or which city they're in because they're on the road so often. Many of the traffickers will often buy victims of human trafficking high-end clothing, jewelry, that sort of thing. Treat them very well at first to lure them into the lifestyle that they are about to enter into. They exploit them, and then they isolate them, and then they get money off of them through trafficking. There are various indicators of somebody is being trafficked. Sometimes they're unable to expand on their story when they're questioned, like, why are you here? Why are you at this hotel by yourself, for example? Many trafficked victims no longer have their ID or have an idea where it is because the trafficker has taken it from them. Another form of power, right? I have your ID. You can't go anywhere because I have your ID. Where are you going to go? Often they can't speak for themselves. The trafficker will speak for them. Like I said earlier, they often don't know where they are, which hotel they're in. Many times I've spoken to women or girls that I believe are being trafficked, and they believe they're in Windsor when here we are in London. Sometimes you'll see bruising, signs of physical abuse or even malnourishment. The odd time you'll see a human trafficking victim that's been tattooed or branded by the trafficker. Quite often our traffic victims are runaways from group homes. So they were young ladies that were living in group homes as a result of family situations, and the trafficker exploits them, knows they're vulnerable, finds them at the group home, and promises them a different lifestyle and forces them into the world of prostitution. Like I said earlier about the expensive items, you see that quite often. You see the different running shoes, the high-end jewelry, the high-end clothing. You see them at the malls sometimes with their trafficker. They'll often have fake or manicured nails, eyelashes, or hair. And they also sometimes don't even know the name of the trafficker. They'll only know his, and I say his because commonly most of our traffickers are male. They only know their nickname of their trafficker. We refer to the game as we refer to sex trafficking as the game. As the game has very different as players. It has the trafficker, it has the trafficked, it has the police, and it also has the buyers. The buyers are those, and I will say men, because most men are the sex buyers that participate in the game. The game has three different parts. We spoke about them earlier, but I'll go through them again. The first part of the game is about recruiting. So a trafficker will find a victim, sometimes online, sometimes at a mall, sometimes outside of a group home, and that's where they've identified their target. And I'm going to find that target, and I'm going to lure them into the game. Oftentimes it is online, whether it's on some sort of social media platform. They'll look for young girls and start sending messages, and then that's how they'll do the recruiting. Once they've sort of landed what they did for the recruiting, they'll look to the next stage, which is isolation. So they will take their victim and isolate them. And when I say that, I don't mean they will isolate them, put them in a dungeon. They will take them to a hotel, wine them and dine them, show them that their lifestyle is great with them. This is the life you want to live. You want to live your life with me. You don't want to live your life with a family. And no one's going to believe you anyway. Don't tell the police. They're not going to believe you anyway. So that's the isolation. They take their phones. Like I said earlier, they'll have their identification. Once they're through that, now they have control. And then once they're in that stage, the controlling and exploiting stage, that's when the money starts. victims of human trafficking can at times be forced to have sex 8, 9, 10 times a day, and they will see very limited to sometimes none of that money. The trafficker will keep all of it. You can see above there, I put 2 different types of traffickers. Commonly, we see Romeo traffickers, or we call them Romeo pimps. A Romeo pimp is sort of what we were speaking about earlier. A boyfriend. The girl thinks, this is my boyfriend. I love him. I'm not, he'll never do anything to me. He's looking at me, he's whining and dining me. He's giving me this, he's giving me that. Meanwhile, the whole time, he has no desire to do that. His plan in the end game is to traffic her and make money off of her. We do see some guerrilla pimps, and a guerrilla pimp is just somebody who threatens with violence. I'm going to hurt your family. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to do something to you. I have a gun. I have a lot of bad guys. So we do see some of that as well. So they're referred to as guerrilla pimps, in that they control through violence, as opposed to the persuasion and the kind of the Romeo wine and dine type of pimp.
Sex trafficking is a form of human trafficking that involves recruiting, moving, or holding victims for sexual exploitation purposes. Sex traffickers can coerce victims into providing sexual services by force or through threats, including mental and emotional abuse and manipulation. Possible signs of sex trafficking: have a new relationship with someone controlling, perhaps online, receive excessive gifts or cash from a partner for no reason, seem to be in a relationship that has taken a sudden negative turn, have intimate images that have been shared by someone online with or without consent, feel intimidated or controlled. For example, is somebody controlling their phone, ID, or movements? Live and or work in unhealthy, unsafe conditions? If you said yes to one or more questions, you or someone you know may be at risk of being trafficked.